The time has come for Overwatch League Season 6, and this year is shaping up to be the highest level of competition in OWL history. But it is not without things to hate on, I promise you. The Atlanta Reign have gathered as much high-end talent as they possibly could. Lip is a higher level being and has been the best player in the world over the last 3 years. Stalker played well every chance he got on Seoul last season and is more than ready for a full-time role. And they've added the best backline package of last year with Fielder Chio, all while retaining Vigilante to round out the double flex option. Then we have the tanks, Hawk and Donghak. Donghawk, if you will. Hawk played well last year on his off tanks and Doomfist, there is no doubt about that. But Donghak is an unproven, borderline ball one trick who has already cost them not just maps, but series in the Pro-Am. In Contenders, he was not anything crazy at all, and honestly, I think they should aim to avoid Winston as much as possible. This is not a team for players to develop. They are here to win it all right now. And who is trying to lead them to victory? Gator. I do not trust this man. As he stepped more into a coaching role last year, Atlanta's stocks nosedived. They bombed out of Jotes and playoffs, and we can already add the Pro-Am as a fumble as well. They did not adapt whatsoever and just spammed the same Sombra Tracer comp everywhere. Just grow up, man. With how important coaching was last season, this team has all the signs of underperformance. But there is a chance the raw talent can overcome it. The Boston Uprising are trying to be the White Lotus from Avatar: The Last Airbender, the way they have all these old veterans coming together and trying to take down the evil that is attacking from the San Francisco shop. But I just don't think this vision's gonna come true, even with the talent on this roster. Smurf by himself makes a flexible role star level tank line. And then adding Kalios just kind of makes things more complicated and feels very unnecessary. The backline is still pretty decent as well. They have Twilight, whose reputation is a bit bigger than him at this point, but he's still solid. Twilight to be one of the, if not the, best Zens in the league, and Lee Jae-gon, who is just praying for a bounce back year. Then we have the DPS line, and now that Birdring has proven to be not washed, there are two big questions here. The first question is, can Decay get away with one tricking Tracer the entire season? Because he cannot hold a candle to Stalker or Pelican on actual projectile DPS. And the second question is, why the fuck is Striker on this team? What is he doing here? However, the problem with this team is not the actual roster. It's the Jidset Mafia plus the Supreme Influence and the booming. We already have reports of canceled scrims, calling scrims off early, jumping off the map mid-scrim. And while it may be blown a little bit out of proportion, this is before the season even fucking started. You have lost 0 real matches and you're already off the map. It's fucking done. Now, there's a chance that they regroup and come out of this stronger, but they have some shitty management, some shitty coaching staff, and players who are known to tilt when it gets tough. Kinda over, man. The Florida Mayhem made a statement by winning the Pro-Am. This team has all of the tools to be one of the best this season. This is how you run a team. While keeping the same core, they improved on every area they needed to in this offseason. They lacked an identity for a lot of last year, so they went all in on someone's aggression and let him run the complete ship. They had Onimo, the most filler main support possible, and upgraded him for Chorong, who is reliable and knows how to make plays. And then they let RuPaul step in and add stability as a flex support. Somehow, Merit fell into their lap, which is just outrageous, really. And Checkmate is a flex god, plus you get Sauna for insurance. Now you have a DPS line that is flexible and can carry. I genuinely cannot find an issue with this team. They have a great coach in Gunba who is willing to think outside of the box. They've all bought into the Someone system. They have no compositional holes, and they're all talented. This is a really fucking good team. The Houston Outlaws have a banging roster, but they still have some hurdles to overcome. Happy Pelican is a relatively tame DPS line overall compared to their competition at the top end. Happy can hang on raw hit scan, but his Sombra was just alright in the Pro-Am, and Pelican's Tracer, while very much improved, isn't taking over games like Stalker or Decay. Then we have Shu and Violet, who might be the scariest two-man backline you could possibly make. And when they were on together, they looked unstoppable. But then in the Pro-Am, when the pressure was on, they were not on the same page whatsoever. If they struggle to find synergy, what is the Outlaws' biggest strength could become a potential weakness that can be exploited, and then everything will fall apart. As for the tank line, Fearless can carry across the main tanks and even potentially off tanks on the down low, but Gargoyle could be a problem. Houston lacked direction when he was playing in the Pro-Am, and other than his Sigma, he's pretty untrustworthy, especially after a year of absence. This team has the capacity for greatness, but they have some kinks they need to work out first. The London Spitfire are looking for lightning to strike twice after making only slight roster changes during the offseason. They add Lethal to join Sparker and Backbone, add Sky Reaper to join Admiral and Landon, and just let Hottie solo tank. With how much better almost every other team got, I don't see how they could possibly repeat last season. Realistically, their only shot is to once again confidently spam Rhyme comps like there's no tomorrow. I am a bit concerned though. In the Pro-Am, they didn't play Rhyme nearly as much as you'd hope, and they did not look good off of it at all. These guys never won off of their raw talent, but because they bought into the system and became a whole bigger than the sum of its parts. If they lose sight of what made them good in the first place and don't proudly spam their one trick, they will be bottom feeders like they were projected to be last year. And I swear to God, if I see Sparker subbed out for any reason at all, it's GG. Call it. The LA Gladiators defied expectations in the Pro-Am and showed that they are still a contending team going into this season. However, the worries have not vanished, but they are smaller. The first worry is still Dante's tank, and even though his development is going well and his Winston's in a pretty good place even right now, how good will he be by the playoffs? For this team to make a dent at the top level down the line, they'll need Dante to not just be a reliable tank, but to be a difference maker. The second worry is that they'll still miss Shu. Babel and Lastro can do a good enough job, but they can't replace the X factor that Shu gave this backline, even when considering Funny Astro adding an extra dimension to give them the edge. No matter what, this team's going to be pretty reliant on Kevster and whoever's beside him, either Kai or Yaki, to get the W's. But this strategy is not bad at all, especially with how smart this coaching staff is, who have proven to be very effective at getting the most value out of Kev without just throwing all the resources at him, especially during open metas. As long as Kevster is on this team, I will never count them out. He is just magic, and if he wants to happen, it will happen. The LA Valiant are back in the West, but returning with their bottom feeder reputation fully intact. They have no money. They make $0. They didn't even have the Twitter password. They had to make a new account for a few days, man. They have some maybe okay pieces, but throw them all together and you have a bottom 4 team at the absolute best. Seeker would have to enter the flow state every match for them to have a fighting chance, and maybe CJ could chip in if he's on Kiriko, but it's rough out here, man. Nos has some potential maybe if he was like a rotational piece on an alright team, but in this situation, he'd have to pop the fuck off to make himself look good. And I have absolutely zero faith in Cry or Liar in any capacity. At least they have some fun personalities and they know their org's a joke, so they're just going with it. The New York Excelsior easily win the award for the most bizarre roster. Fits plus creative is good. Giving Kellen a second chance is valid. But it is not valid to run back Kellen as a solo tank. It did not work even a little bit last season, and I do not see how that will magically change. Then you have the EU DPS, Shockwave, and Psycho, and they could be good if utilized correctly. Then sprinkle in a father of 7 Lep into the mix, because why not? And then top it off with Anyan and Halo, and realistically, they shouldn't get any playtime. Maybe Anyan and Double Flex, but even then, I am very unsure. These players aren't bad, but they feel so cobbled together that it's tough to rate them highly. If they rotate their DPS properly, with Fitz being in 24/7, Shockwave coming in for hit scan tracer comps, and Psycho being there for any of your flex DPS needs, they'll be at least competitive, but it's hard for me to see them making it out of the basement. They also haven't officially announced a coach, and there were rumors that they did not have a translator for the Korean players, which would just be batshit insane. The San Francisco Shock have committed armed robbery to get this team. They have literal top players at every position that are already familiar with each other's game and the crusty crack pipe. This is insane. The Shock are the favorite going into this season for a damn good reason. Proper plus 5 other players that should be elite in their role is a terrifying thought, because he was only 1 map away from winning the entire league already last year, and his team has improved around him, and he's not a rookie anymore. What the fuck? If either Max or Junbin somehow flop, you still have the other one to fall back on. And if they both play as projected, you have one of the best tank lines in the league to play around with. The only possible compositional issue you could have is Vindame's flex support, but it was already pretty good last year, and he has shown to be able to pick up heroes very quickly if needed. Maybe you could be upset that Proper's been forced on the hit scan, because it's best to have him on whatever carries the hardest. But his hit scan is world class, so as long as Heesang plays like he has his entire Contender's career, it should not be an issue at all. The Toronto Defiant have reconstructed as much of the American Tornado core as they could, which makes them immediately the team with the most personality in the league and quite fun to watch. They have a uniquely high peak with Speedly on Echo and the ability to enable him extremely well, but it's a relatively niche composition and cannot be forced as much as they'd like to. Kaluge as a solo tank could be a problem at the top level, but he steadily improved his Winston, and the rest of his tanks are already very good. Just don't look at Wrecking Ball, bro is not playing the rodent. If Toronto find a way to lean into their strengths while continuing to develop Kaluge's main tanks, he has the potential to be a real joke. As for the backline, they're compositionally sound with pretty good carry potential, although both UV and Majed have a severe risk of over-aggression. Then you have this stacked DPS line. Hydron has continued to get better and better with no end in sight since he entered the league. Speedly's Tracer is able to keep up with the big guys, and Sam being there to round it out with playstyle differences and great flexibility is being highly underrated by the community right now. Toronto is the most meta-dependent team in the top half of NA, but if they tap into their hive mind, they have a potential to push into the upper echelon. The Vancouver Titans have big underdog energy. Sugar Free and Aspire are going to lead the charge with big carries and great flexibility between them. Just do not look at Sugar Free's May, you will get glaucoma. Punk's solo tank looks serviceable, and he's been given the opportunity to really own this role as the guy. Then over on the support side, you have Faith clocking into his 9 to 5, and Crimzo being alright at his other flex supports and having a banger's end. They would definitely benefit from a 6th player, whether a main tank or a second flex support, but the question with these guys is literally, is the talent good enough? It could be. All of these players have the potential to step up big time. It's just a matter of who makes the most of this opportunity. At their worst, they're a bottom 4 team, and at their absolute best, with everything going their way, they're probably top 5. In all likelihood, it's somewhere in the middle, and they will be an extremely underwhelming team. The Vegas Eternal are a joke of a team and honestly a disgrace to the Overwatch League. There is just no defending them. I don't care how long they've played together. Synergy does not matter when you are all lost in a cave. Vulcan's solo tank is tragic, and his off tank is already below league average. Luke Mino looks completely lost. Rack's claim to fame is playing Brigitte. Malthel looks worse with each match, and Dove is the only player fighting back, but even then, it's a coughing baby versus hydrogen bomb scenario. Their only hope was Rhino, but they have no money, so he's not on the way. It's over, pack it up, move to a new continent. The Washington Justice are a team with a chip on their shoulder. A lot of these players were under scrutiny for one reason or another throughout their career, and they've come together under Get Amazed to make people feel dumb about their opinions. Flora and Alpha Yi were playing the best they have so far in Owl during the Pro-Am. Alpha Yi's Tracer was literally never that good last season. Why, bro? And Benbest Winston and Ryan was pretty solid as well. The rest of the team a bit off though. Mirror's weird because I don't think he matches up that well to other off tanks, but surely that is why he is here. And then the backline is not inspiring at all. It felt like FG God lost his swag in the Pro-Am, and if he has no swag, he has nothing. And then Teru has a pretty good Kiriko, but his other flex supports were very whatever, and frankly, he has no clue how to play Baptiste at all, and that's probably why their rush comps look whack. These guys are kind of in the same boat as Vancouver, but I don't see them peaking nearly as high, and I have less faith in the player talent, but a bit more faith in the coaching staff. Now, moving to the East, the Dallas Fuel come off their championship victory a shell of their former self. Their playoff MVP Fearless, gone. And so is the best backline of last year. Their replacements, a racist McDonald's manager in MCD, and the most hyped rookie support of the year in Bliss. The budget cuts could have been a lot worse though. By moving over to Korea, they managed to maintain the best coach in the league, Rush, the best off-tank in the league, Hanbin, the lifeblood of the team in Sparkle, and Edison. This team is still going to be good, don't get me wrong, they should be top 2 in the East at least, but they will undoubtedly suffer from losing 3 elite players. And top 2 in the East is still a far cry from even top 5 in the West, just because of how weak the region has become due to budgets being slashed. They also face many questions. Can Hanbin solo tank? His off tanks were undisputed, but how does he look on Winston? Also, is Edison really that guy? He benefited so much from the team around him last year when he was popping off, and with the fuel taking heavy blows, I suspect his performance will as well. And perhaps the biggest question of all, can Rush's coaching plus MCD's rage against China propel him to be at least mid? It's unwise to doubt this core, but it's also unreasonable to think that they'll just shrug off their off-season losses. The Guangzhou Charge are running back the exact same roster from the end of last year, and it's a pretty reasonable choice. They did find success if you ignore choking in the play-ins and getting reverse swept by the now defunct Chengdu Hunters. The only thing special about this team in any capacity is Choi Se-won. Choi will in all likelihood continue to be overlooked as a star player because he is on a middling and usually irrelevant Guangzhou Charge. But I mean, it literally cannot get worse than the start of last year. That Charge team was an insult to esports. Although this team is better, Piggy as a solo tank when he's already shown flexibility issues on both the Outlaws and the Charge is really weird. They're either praying for a Zarya season or Piggy found a genie and all 3 of his wishes were to be a Winston god. Then you have Jimmy, who has been inconsistently okay his entire career, and that is just not going to bring you the wins. Looking towards the backline, they're pretty solid. Xerneas is chill, and Faraway does have some carry potential, especially when the competition for best flex support is between him, Monk, and now Iris, I guess. It's not exactly field or shoe out here. If Choi plays out of his mind, and he will, they can do things, maybe top 3 in this region, but it is tough. The Hangzhou Spark have built a Chinese super team. Shy plus Leave might be the best DPS line in the league, and if Gushue can play Winston all day, they could be bonkers brazy. But past that, for being a super team, they're kind of lacking. Gushue off of Winston is not getting any praise, and 20 was terminally mid when he was in the league. So now that he's a year removed from competition entirely, think about that. Then you have Langza, who was pretty unremarkable in the Valiant last year, and Monk, who has decent highs, but is in the same boat as Faraway, pretty good for the region with some carry potential, although he is 100% taking a backseat to the big guns. Rui being back is massive though, and even though he hasn't coached in Overwatch 2, I trust him to use these players that he is familiar with very well. Pretty much all of the hype for this team stems from Shy and Leave. 2 MVP level players together is ridiculous. Now there is some potential concern with Leave after a year of hit scan, but he literally had a proper level performance in season 4, so just get real, don't worry about it, man. Overall, Shy's the best. Look at what he's done with no help over the past 2 years. He's been a solo carry menace, and now he has Leave to take some of the heat off of him. They are the favorite to win the East, and if they fumble somehow, either Shy is cursed or the whole franchise is cursed. The Seoul Dynasty is under a bit of a retool. Fitz has finally moved on after 4 years, and they have 2 rookies with flex support Lee Soo-min and hit scan Prophet with a PH. However, not only were they able to keep Prophet around because he wants to chill in Seoul, but he also convinced Void to unretire for one last ride. Rounding out this roster is Krillin and allegedly Belos Rhea, because at this point he isn't announced, but he looks very likely. So there are some issues here. This backline, not too great. Lee Soo-min is alright, but nothing to write home about, and Krillin on Lucio is downright horrid. This tank line, pretty good for the East because only them and Spark have 2 tanks, so immediately they are more well-rounded with less effort. Although both Belos Rhea and Void had some pretty wide ranges last year. Sometimes Belos Rhea struggled on the Winston and Void just looked lost in 5v5. But if Ball is good, they're in business, and Void had some good looks on Zarya Reaper comps and in Jotes. Void being able to chill out and just play what he's good at is massive. I did not trust this man to solo tank. Then you have the Prophet profit duo, which is interesting. On one hand, you have an unproven rookie with great hit scan talent that could surprise, and on the other, you have the legend who seems like he just kind of wants to chill out in his twilight years. I'm not saying he's going to phone it in completely, but if he really wanted to win, he would have went to NA. The Seoul Infernal really think that by changing a name, it does things. This is literally the same team with some different names on them. Do we really think that Mag and Skewed pushes this team over the edge? That's insane. It is still all about how hard can Zest and MN3 carry these guys, and they'll take them far. MN3 has one of the highest mechanical ceilings in the game, so it's not a bad bet to think he could step it up and find consistency. And it is unreasonable to ask any more of Zest. He was already a consistent beast on everything last season. What more could you want? But asking Mag to step it up, that takes guts and a strong belief in the Overwatch gods to smile on you. I understand that Supreme is the devil, but for Mag to 180 after 2 dreadful seasons would be nothing short of a miracle. Feud getting a chance to shine as a starter is pretty nice though. But we have to face the facts. A dead rat in a subway would be better than Aim God. With that said, by far the saddest part of this team is running back Fixa. He has no business being in this league still. In an entire season, he did not learn how to beat properly. What is going to change in an off season? What's different, man? The Shanghai Dragons are just unreal. They said, we're going to turn over a new leaf. And then Moon said, no, we are growing a new breed of tree. He then proceeded to smoke it and got high as hell off of it because there is no other way he made this roster. Now, Moon experiencing this high of his brand new tree, he texted Bebe to come be a player coach again, Fleta to come solo tank, and for Diem to come back and off-roll after being gone for 2 years. Now, Diem was let go because of health reasons and Iris is here to replace him, but let's be real. As great as the dumpster fire that Diem support potentially was, and I truly wanted to witness it, Iris is a significantly better pickup, and it's criminal that he was not in the league to begin with. As he comes down from this high, he's like, wait, I need a Lucio player. Let me phone Gangnam Jin because it worked out perfectly in New York. So good. As the high continues to subside, he thinks about the good days when Who Are You carried him to a tournament, and he's like, hold on. We have Zoomer, Who Are You, and contenders. So he pulls up with Viper onto the team. Literal Genji one trick. Sure, why not? So now Moon, completely sobered up, looks at his team and goes, this is fucked up. I need to get myself a reliable hit scan player who will be my rock. So Hisu taps in. And honestly, Hisu deserves better, but he's here now. This team needs a lot to go right to get out of the basement. I mean, Hisu and Iris help their case a bit, but they still need Fleta to be decent, Gangnam Jin to not spontaneously combust on Lucio, and Viper to somehow have a tracer. This season is going to be one of the best. Even with this shitty 2-tournament format, I do not care. We are in for good Overwatch, fun storylines, and as always, people to clown on. Thank you so much for watching. Like and subscribe for more Owl content. Have yourself a good one. Deuces.